know when it's the right time for you to buy your first home. I want to share with you a story about how I decided it was time to buy my first home, and hopefully that will help you figure it out. So let's assume that you have a stable job, you know your credit score is rock solid, and you've got your savings figured out for at least a small down payment and your closing costs. So financially, you are ready. There's no reason why not to buy. I found myself in this position when I had first graduated college and I got my first job. I knew that I could use my college history in order to purchase my first home, and I was still living at home. I also knew that I didn't want to continue to live at home now that I had a big girl job and I was kind of an adult and doing more of my adult life. So I made the decision it was time for me to move, and I had options. I had the option to start renting, or I had the option to purchase because I was financially in a position where I could. Now, could I have kept saving? Yes. Could I have had a bigger down payment? Yes. Could I have had a larger salary and gotten a bigger house? Yes. All of those things did potentially exist for me. However, I had the decision to make, do I want to be a renter long term, or do I want to buy a house? And because it was important for me to ultimately own real estate, I made the decision that I would be willing to purchase whatever ultimately fit in my budget at that time in order to start my trajectory of building equity and ultimately building wealth through real estate. At that time, I did not work in real estate. I had a financial position. I worked in a firm. I did not work in the real estate world at all, but I knew that I ultimately wanted to be a homeowner. So if you find yourself in a position where you're either maybe young and still living at home, or older and still living at home, or you're renting and you've made the decision that you want to become a homeowner at some point in your life, as soon as you are financially ready to do so, have a conversation with a lender, with myself, figure out what that budget looks like, and ultimately purchase that house. I know that is not ideal, and a lot of people want to go, okay, well, I'm just going to save until I can get the 4-bedroom house on 2 acres and get that one-time dream house, but it's not realistic, and the very few people who can do that are incredibly privileged and lucky, and ultimately, it's not the reality for the majority of people, myself included. That first house was amazing for me and for my husband, but it really did not work for us long term, and we knew that going in. We knew that it was going to be an investment. We had some things that we were sacrificing. We sacrificed a little bit on area and condition because we knew that that house was going to propel us into the house that we live in now, which we're very fortunate to have. Now, I will also say the equity growth alone in that first investment house has changed our trajectory tremendously. So when you're thinking about whether or not you should buy, if you are financially ready, you should start looking at what the market can do for you. Put aside the fact that you're not going to get the dream home and ultimately get something that is going to start your trajectory for owning real estate and building equity. I hope that helps. And if you want to talk about your specific scenario, reach out and let's chat about it and see if purchasing your first home is something that's going to make sense for you this year.